All right. Good evening and welcome back to doing Practice-Its with Mr. Badges. Today we're looking at the start of Chapter 8, which is Unit 5 for us. Yeah, it's messed up. But we're going to try to do Self-Check 8.10, Distance Point. Okay, so let's read through it. It says to add the following method to the point class. Public double distance point other. So it's called the distance method. It accepts a point called other as the explicit parameter to the function, and it's going to return a double at some point. Now, this is going to get a little strange, but reading through this, it says returns the distance between the current point object and the given other point object. So it's saying there's a point, the current point, in the other point. Now the other point, it's clear to see where that is. It's this point other that's the parameter. It's the explicit parameter. But you have to remember that there's also an implicit parameter when we're dealing with objects. And to see how this would work, I'm going to pretend for a second that we are in the client code, right? If we're in the client code and maybe we've said point left equals new point 1, 1, and we've said point right equals new point 2, 2, then to call this function, which is called distance, we would say left dot distance right, like that. So the right point would be the explicit parameter, but the left point would be the implicit parameter because of that dot notation, right? Object dot method. Okay, that's client code. That's not our actual method, but that's how this function would be called. So the question is, we can get this right point that's the explicit parameter from saying other, but how do we get the left point, the implicit parameter? We're going to do that in a second, but let's read about the other details here. It says returns the distance between the 2 points. The distance between 2 points is equal to the square root of the sum of the squares of the differences of their x and y coordinates. The square root of the sum of the squares of the differences of the x's and the y's, as it shows here. So we'll have to code that. In other words, the distance between the 2 points, blah, 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 blah. The 2 points with the same xy coordinates should return a distance of 0.0. Okay, so you have an x and you have a y, of course, for both points. So we need the header. I'm going to grab the header, copy, paste, boom, starting and ending brackets. We're going to have to return something, blah, 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 the formula. But we're going to have to be able to get those 2 points. So the 1 point, as we said, other.x, other.y, we'll have to use that. But we want to be able to get that other point, the implicit parameter. And this is the way to do it. There's a keyword in Java called this. And so if we say this dot x and we say this dot y, what we would be referring to in the example that I wrote earlier, having a left and right point, is that the right point would be other, and the left point, which was the implicit parameter, is referred to by this dot whatever field. So this dot x and this dot y, and other dot x and other dot y. And we can use that just like this x2 and x1 and y2 and y1 in the formula. So, and we can return all of that. So, let's type that formula in bit by bit here. How do we get the square root? Math.squirt. Inside of there, a whole bunch of stuff, right? We need the squares. Well, you could do the squares one of 2 ways. You could do the thing times itself, or you could use one of the math library functions, math.pow. Okay. So we have 2 of those. So we get a math.pow and a math.pow. So we said the square root of, we've got that part, the sum of, got that part, the squares of, well, we need the squares, so we need a thing, and then to say we square it, comma 2. So we have a thing, we're going to square, comma 2. The thing that we're squaring in each case, look back up here, we're squaring the differences of the x and the y's. So we have to do this dot x minus other dot x. We have to do this dot y. This dot y minus other dot y. That is a long formula. It doesn't even fit on the screen. Okay? So we should probably double check it. Math dot square root. There's that parenthesis there. And then the other one's way off the screen. It's off the screen and I don't even have a scroll bar. And I can't seem to go over there. Oh, you know what? It's my zoomy zoom. 170%. Okay, there we go. Math dot square root. This one matches up with that one. Then math dot pow, which is all of that, plus math dot pow, which is all of that. We got the difference, this minus other for the x's, squared, and we got the difference, this minus the other, and we've got that squared. So everything seems to match up. We don't need this. That was just there for reference. Okay, let's test it out. Submit. Yay, we passed all 6 of 6 tests. Okay. Keep in mind, since we're square rooting, we may get decimals, so we're returning a double. Thank you.